Good morning. This is Rich Morrison, and welcome to my latest edition of the Thinking Cap, where today we're going to talk a little bit about Friday's USDA report, what to expect from that huge acreage report we get this Friday, the 28th. That report comes out at 11 a.m. Central Time, so it's going to be a big deal. And the trade is all over the place, as usual, with its guesses on what USDA is going to come out with on planted acres. So I thought I would walk you through some possibilities and what the impact could be on our markets. These are the current trade estimates from analysts reported by Reuters last night. The trade, what's interesting about all of this is the trade is expecting an increase in acres of the big three crops, corn, beans, and wheat. So that's interesting to me. If you go back to the March intentions report, USDA had lowered overall planted acres by 6 million acres from last year. And there's been a lot of people wonder why. Either they were maybe too high last year, maybe they're too low this year. And so this June report might answer some of those questions. And that's what the trade is expecting or is waiting to find out here on Friday morning. But corn acres, the average trade estimate, 80.1 to, 90.353. That's up about 300 million from back in March. Soybeans, 86,753. That's up over 200 million from back in March. Total wheat acres expected to be up 150 million. So, or 150,000. So, but you can also see the ranges here. 89 to 91.3. You got a 2+ million range on all three of these crops. And so I want to look at the stocks matrices that I put together because they really show you what the impact would be. And so let's start out with the corn number. Corn tends to be the biggest one, of course. And so the way these stocks matrices read, if you haven't seen them before, we begin up at the top. This is for the 2024-25 crop year. We start out with USDA's projection for beginning stocks. This will be as of September 1, just a little over 2 billion bushels. USDA is already forecasting next year's demand at 14.8 billion bushels, a little bit of a jump from this year. Then the matrix has a lot of numbers in it. And basically, we've got planted acres on the left-hand side, and we've got yield on the top. And I've got a bunch of different yields from recent years up here on the top, including USDA's current number of 181. And then on the left-hand side, we've got the prospective planting number, just over 90 million back in March. We've got the average trade estimate, which I just mentioned. And then I've got a range from 87.5 to 92 million. Why 92? Somebody I read last night, was saying they think USDA is wrong on its number because they had lowered the number too far back in March. They think we could be up to 92 million acres. So that's what makes a market. And you can see then within the matrix, and I'm using harvested acreage right now at 91.3%. That's pretty typical. I'm not going to dig into that too deeply because I know this harvested acreage number is probably going to be down some because of some flooding recently. But for the moment, we're just talking about planted acres. And so I don't expect USDA to make any immediate changes to the harvest number. That's probably going to come maybe out into mid-July or August. But the stocks matrix then shows you what ending stocks would look like giving different pairings of yield and planted acres. And you can see the green numbers would basically solidify where the market's at right now. I believe the market's trading a 2 billion plus carryout for next year. And that's why the markets have been going down. And so the market is assuming at the moment we're going to be in one of these green numbers. And so if we, for example, planted 90.35 million, harvest 92.5 million, we've got a yield at 179, leaves us comfortably still over 2 billion bushel carryout. That's the way you read the matrix. Any yield above that, of course, would add to the stocks number. If we drop these acres down, say 89 million, or in the end of the day, harvested acres fall a million or so, now you're looking with a similar yield down around 1.7, 1.8 billion carryout. So does that help elevate the market? I think it does a little bit. And so that's why this is a big deal. And that's why I think this matrix helps to be able to get a snapshot of what the potential impact would be given USDA's change in this acreage number on Friday. Now, once we get past Friday, of course, we're going to be trading weather. We've got a 4th of July holiday next week. July 12th will be USDA's next supply demand report. They'll come out with their updated balance sheet. They'll plug this planted acreage number in. probably won't adjust harvested acres yet. They may wait a month or two before they do that. They could make changes to the demand numbers. They could make changes to old crop stocks, but at least once we get this acreage number, we'll know what we're playing with as we go forward. On soybeans, again, USDA somewhere 86.5 to 86.7 according to the trade. If you use the USDA June number on yield, we're swimming in beans. We're 400 and some million bushels. That's what the trade's currently telling us. And if you've read and listened to some of my stuff, I've been suggesting I think the bean balance sheet right now is the most bearish of all the crops, even more bearish than wheat, more bearish than cotton. Because of the South American production. You've just finished raising a record Brazil-Argentine crop combined. Now here you are looking at a potentially big U.S. crop. Of course, it isn't in the bin yet, but if you're using a USDA yield number at 52 bushel with these kinds of acres, you're looking at a lot of beans potentially. So you could drop a bushel off, you're still looking close to 400 million carryout, which is higher than where we're at this year. So that's what we're looking at on beans, but you can see we've got a range on here, depending on what USDA might do with acres. If they were to raise acres, of course, it'd be bearish. A drop in acres could actually help support the market at this point. What changes have we seen in corn and bean acres over the last several years? Well, you can see here on the left-hand side, this is the total corn plus bean acres, the change from the March to the June report. 4 of the last 5 years, we've seen USDA actually lower acres. Now this year, though, because they came in so low back in March, you would probably lean the other direction, I guess, at this point. And you can see we've had several years before that of an increase in total planted acres. The change by crop, last year we saw more corn, less beans. That had to do with the early planting weather we had last year. Had a great planting season for corn, got a lot of corn planted. The last 2 years before that, similar. And I think that had to do with price. We had great corn prices in those years, and people wanted to try to get corn planted. So we'll see what happens this year. May not have been as great of conditions for everyone everywhere. So I don't know if it lends to more corn versus soybean acres or not. Finally, I'll switch over to cotton. We didn't have an average trade estimate put out from USDA. Currently, USDA is at 10.67 million acres. With a yield of 842 pounds would give us just under 4 million bales. I don't have anything to offset that right now. I don't have a reason to believe that their acreage number is off a whole lot. I thought maybe it might be a little higher back in March. So that would just add a little bit of a bearish tone if that were to be the case. But I'm going to share all of these in the market report so you can take a look at these and scour them over, have them in front of you when the report comes out on Friday and see what you think the impact might be. So again, big upcoming reports this Friday is the quarterly grain stocks report in addition to the June planted acreage report. So we'll get both of those that day. Stocks numbers could have an impact on the market as well, but primarily we're going to be looking at the June acreage report. And then July 12th is the USDA's next WASDE report. And again, USDA will incorporate those June acreage numbers into that balance sheet. I doubt that they'll change the percent of harvested acres or the yields on that report. Most likely they'll wait until August. That's typical, but we'll see on the 12th of July. So thank you for listening to this edition of the Thinking Cap. If you got any questions, shoot me an email or a text, and we'll be glad to try to answer those. Take care, and we'll talk to you again very soon.